So you've been hired as a parks planner. You look at your job description and it says, various duties. I'm going to look at, going to review area structure plans, neighborhood structure plans, servicing agreements, whatever the terminology they use in the planning world. Talks about, process management, maybe, skills, says, maybe some background experience, history in this kind of work, team playing, that kind of stuff. And all those are valid, appropriate things that should be part of what you do every day. However, what is it that a parks planner actually does? You're now sitting at that desk and you've got mounds of documents around you in the form of bylaws and parks plans and process information. What the heck is your actual role as a parks planner? And I would suggest to you that there are three primary roles of a parks planner. First of all, you are a translator. And what I mean by that is the documents that you have around you that you're buried in, it has a certain language. It's planner, I call it planner speak. It's some of it's legalese kind of thing. And not everybody understands that language. So you have to interpret for people not familiar. So who would not be familiar? So people not familiar will be kind of the park operations staff necessarily. So it could be landscape architects probably are aware, but maybe the programmers are not aware. The community recreation coordinators who work with the community will have some awareness, but not complete. The park operations staff will not have an awareness of, in any meaningful way, of planning language kind of things. So, and recreation facility operators would not have a lot of actual knowledge, technical knowledge of planning documents and processes and what they mean. It's not to say that they're smart people, they're efficient people, but they have another world that they live in, so they run facilities or they maintain parks or they work with the community in whatever processes that are happening. They each have their own lingo, by the way. So, so one of your roles as park planner is to translate that information on both sides of you, so the planning knowledge and the non-planning knowledge, like the ops information and the rec facility operation, that kind of stuff. You have to translate that to other stakeholders, social actors in the process. So you are working with information flows going back and forth, and you may need to, clarify what some of the terminology means and what the processes mean. So that's one important role. Secondly, you're a facilitator, so you're inevitably involved in some processes. And as I said, the planning processes knowledge is, or planning processes themselves have their own lingo and whatnot. So when you are engaging park operational staff and community in processes, you are facilitating information back and forth between the various social actors. So those are, and in the middle, and one of the really cool things about all that is as you work with each group of social actors, as I've described, land use planners, ops staff and rec facility operators, you're learning their language, lingo. So you're learning about their business. And in this, over time, it's this the overlaying of all this information. You become a content expert on multiple fields kind of thing. It adds up. It scaffolds kind of thing. It adds up. So you're in these processes, no matter what they are, you're picking up bits and pieces of information that will help you facilitate processes and clarify languages kind of thing. One of the things that I've had to do, or I've had discussions with, somebody says, well, I had somebody who told me once, park planners have no proprietary knowledge of parks. And well, first of all, I vehemently disagree with that. That's not true. But it's not true because when you're embedded in a parks function service, you are a content expert. You're learning, you're listening to what's going on in the community. You're listening to what's going on in rec facilities, and you're listening and what's going on in the planning processes. So you become parks planner becomes acquires proprietary knowledge that a simple, not a simple, but a land use planner does not have. And remember, land use planners often end up mediating between needs. So they need to rely, in my view, on people who have been in the parks service field, because they are listening and hearing what's going on in the community, and they can transfer that information up and down, back and forth, in all different ways. The other thing you got to think about in doing your role as a parks planner is social actors in parks have different roles, different responsibilities, different levels of power, and different levels of agency to make changes. So, for example, elected officials have at the highest level of power and agency. They can get rid of a park, they can fund a park, they can fund park amenities. They have probably the most amount of power and agency in a park setting. And so, but a community folk, they are players in the park service operationalization, but they provide information to elected officials, for example, and administrators to help guide decision making. Now, I don't want to minimize that, because my own research in parks in Edmonton showed that it was the civil society have dramatically impacted parkland change processes from acquisition through to disposition, including design, construction, programming, and maintenance. They have a huge role, but they don't have the power and agency. They can influence, they can provide advice, but they don't have the same level of power and agency. And then within an administration, quite frankly, there are different levels of power and agency there too. Typically, hard services like transportation, utilities, police, and fire generally have a higher level of power and agency than the parks planner. And that's just the reality. That's not unique to Edmonton or anywhere else. We just typically do not have the same level of power and agency in influencing decisions. We would have more than community folks, for example. So when you're crafting processes, when you're transferring information back and forth, you have to think about the power and agency realities of processes. So it's very complex at the end of the day. It is a great job being a parks planner. I have never participated in a parks planning process where I didn't learn something from the community every single time. I would hear stuff about the community. You would hear nitty gritty stuff. And just one side story. There was a community we were working. We had been given there was a federal grant, a NIP program, where we got some money to do some park development in Boyle Street. And so we went in there and we said, okay, we get X amount of dollars, and we cleared with the program managers, the NIP program managers, who were engineers, that, well, we might be able to get some community money to throw in with the federal money, which will help us provide more, kind of thing. And they first looked at me and went, seriously, you're going to do that? You're not getting any more, you know? And I said, no, not asking for any more, but I think we can get some other money. So in the process of that, we had to, the community had to fill, the community league had to fill out some grants. Well, the working group that the CRC was working with were illiterate. They couldn't make up a grant. They couldn't fill out a grant. So what the CRC did was fill out the grant and get them to sign it. They were all on board, like they were part of the process. They helped us do the need assessment, all that kind of stuff. So that's an important nugget you get in these processes, is the on the ground granular understanding of what's going on in the community when you're working with the community. And fortunately, parks planners get to do that. So in a nutshell, those are the main tasks. You are a translator, you're a knowledge disseminator, you're a facilitator. And because you're touching so many different functions, roles, and responsibilities, and levels and powers of authority, you develop a real deep meaning and understanding of what's going on in the community writ large that have an impact on the park site itself. I'll leave that with you, and we'll talk some more.